Welcome to another episode of Gate City Chronicles. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, your host. And I know that you're all getting ready for the Christmas season. We just celebrated Thanksgiving. And one thing about Christmas is that I noticed my garbage can gets filled really quickly right after we open up all the presents. And it brings to mind a lot of the needs of the state. And trash, that seems to be a big topic these days. Trash, recycling, landfills, and we have a really special guest today to talk a little bit about trash, maybe about landfills, but maybe about the story of how one small business got started years ago, possibly 40 years ago. And I'd like to introduce you to Mr. John Casella, CEO of Waste Systems.
Casella Waste System.
Yeah, Casella Waste System. Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Glad to come on.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to the discussion. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, I years ago I used to clean for a company. It was the Audley Construction, and Mr. A, I used to call him, yeah. And in his office up on right off of Bow Route 3A, there's this big panorama of him standing by this old logging truck, and it was the beginning.
Yeah,
it was the beginning of the story, and it was very, very humbling, you know. And I don't think they ever forgot where they came from. You know, and so I understand that you have kind of a humble beginning with starting, your company.
We really do. Well, first of all, with regard to all of that packaging and all that material, fortunately, a good portion of that is recyclable.
Yes. And
can get reused. So that's the way to start the conversation, right? It's clear that a very large portion of that material can be recycled. So we're excited to be here, excited to have the opportunity to talk about the history of the company and how we started. The business started in 1977 by my brother, Doug. He started the company. He's the kind of guy that can pick up a dime with an excavator, but you really wouldn't find him filling out paperwork or doing permitting or doing the bills. So, I started helping him from an administrative standpoint. After college, I came back. We were in the hospitality business, my parents. Built a motel on the mountain in between Rutland and Pico at the time because Killington ski area wasn't even there. And so we grew up in the hospitality business. After college, I went to work for Killington, and I was at Killington in the real estate department. They were doing development of condominiums, and then they had a rental and management program that I ran for the owners. So they would build the condos around the mountain, sell them to folks, and then they would run a rental and management program for the owners. And I did that for about 5 years out of college. And, Doug's first large commercial customer was Killington ski area. His first large municipality was the town of Sherburne. And the town of Sherburne today has now been renamed a few years ago to the town of Killington. Interestingly enough, both customers we still have today, almost 50 years later. So it's a real tribute to the start of the business. And it was an exciting start. So he said to me, after about a year and a half, he said, John, you love to have you join me, come in and be my partner. And so, after a year and a half, I did. I left Killington, went to work with Doug, and then in 1977, we started the first recycling facility in Vermont, and always differentiated ourselves from a solid waste management standpoint with the recycling component, even going back to 1977, having started the first recycling facility. Back then, we were handling bottle bill material, but one of the things that we recognized early on in our careers, you would go into the landfill and you would dump a load of waste, and half of it would be cardboard. And what we did was, at the landfill, we would go in, dump a load of waste, and then pick up a load of cardboard and bring it back to the recycling facility. So we're moving material both ways. It was the first time we kind of thought of, well, this is a backhaul. The truck is coming back anyway, right? So it's was the early efficiency notions that my brother had. So it's a great story. And then we, if you can think back to 1970, 78, 79, 80, that period of time, we were fortunate. We were in our 20s. We were starting to grow our business, and we differentiated ourselves a bit with the recycling component. The people in the industry at that time were older, and their kids were all going off to be doctors and lawyers, and they had fabulous businesses. They were able to put their kids through college, but their kids weren't necessarily interested in the business. So along comes John and Doug in their 20s, and we were the retirement engine for a lot of really good people who built tremendous businesses where they didn't have a mechanism for retirement. So that's how we really began to grow the business and take it forward.
Very interesting. And you mentioned Killington. I think I was there a year and a half ago. There was some flooding one of the neighboring towns.
Yeah.
It was a market. No, it was a Shop and Save or Hannaford's. That's right.
Yeah.
It was a Hannaford's, and apparently the river just went right into the Hannaford's, and so everything in that store had to go.
Correct.
From the top shelf, everything.
Well, that's one of the things that people sometimes don't understand about the need for disposal capacity. Every one of the natural disasters that we have, we've got to have a place to take material and take it quickly. It can't stay around. That health hazard would be significantly worse than just picking it up and taking it to a properly run disposal facility.
Well, I happened to notice where all the garbage was going. It was going into these dumpsters, and I was going to do a little selfie with it, but it did say Casella on it. I do remember
Perfect.
that. But I remember just the absolute wow I was overwhelmed with everything just in that one store that had to be disposed of. It couldn't even been given away because it was a flood disaster. So you can have
exactly.
MRSA or any type of mold.
Just think about all of the devastation that we've seen, all over the Northeast with changing weather, with the streams, destruction of homes, absolute devastation. And there's only one thing that you can do with that is to put it in a properly run disposal facility.
Yeah, and we've had a lot of discussion about landfills, and it seems to be the NIMBY thing going on right now, and people are making monsters out of people, and they don't really know the full backstory of what it goes into designing a landfill. I assume you've take Bethlehem, for instance. That
Sure.
was that's not something that you started, but it's something that you fixed.
Yeah, when we first took over, when we first bought the facility, there was an unlined landfill there that was contaminating the Ammonoosuc, and within I think it was probably 2 years or so of us owning the facility, we dug up that unlined landfill and put it into the lined landfill. So our perspective is we've done a really good job of taking care of the environment and making sure there aren't off-site issues from the facility. There's always you always have disappointments and you always have challenges. We're a highly regulated business. Mistakes happen. You got to fix it and move on. But we're fortunate to be able to say that we've not had any off-site issues.
Right, right. So let's talk PFAS.
Sure.
That seems to be a very, very, we didn't know about it maybe 15, 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden, we're finding products that are made with PFAS, or whether it's your fireman's clothes or your pots and pans. It's in just about everything that's out there, your rugs. And so that eventually leaches into our water system, and of course, it's one of the more difficult things to filter out. But from what I understand, you folks have developed something that can.
We have. I think one of the things that we've done with the state of Vermont, we did a pilot program with the state of Vermont. Now we're put in a permanent facility, but in that pilot program, we're using foam fractionation, which separates the PFAS from the leachate. Because leachate for years all over the country has gone to municipal sewage treatment facilities, but the treatment facilities can't treat the leachate for the PFAS. You can treat it for everything else, but they're not able to handle the PFAS. So we did a pilot program with the state, and that pilot program has been very successful. We're able to float off the PFAS out of the leachate before it goes to the municipal sewage treatment facility. So it's really exciting. There's 4 or 5 constituents, 97% removal on the majority of them, and then maybe 65-70% removal on one of the constituents. So a lot of progress there. We're really excited about that technology. And for us, we're going to see more and more of that, because it allows us then to go to multiple municipal treatment facilities where there isn't an issue, because it's already got the PFAS removed. And I think it's also important to understand that PFAS is in everything. So most all discharges from an industrial standpoint going to the treatment facilities has got PFAS in it as well. So it's not just landfill leachate that's a problem. This problem is in pretty much a very large portion of the material going to the municipal sewage treatment facilities from other industrial activities. So it's a big problem for the country, and obviously something that is going to get addressed, I think, over the next few years.
Yeah, years ago, I traveling up, I think it was Route 93, I think it was around exit 18. I think they routinely used to spray the entire field with sludge.
Yep.
And I'm sure that field has got to be contaminated. I think they stopped it. Yeah. But I don't think people realized what they were doing. They thought they were probably helping the environment. This is waste that'll fertilize the ground. Yep. Not so much, because it's right next to the river too. So
that's right. I think that it all depends on how much PFAS is in the sludge from the municipal sewage treatment facility, and then it's a function of how much has gone in from an industrial standpoint. But yes, that's a growing concern, and in some cases, land application is being banned. So it's again another challenge, certainly for the future.
I chaired a committee a year and a half ago, I think it was, and we wanted to deal with we got an issue with the landfills, and we want to reduce at least the tonnage that's going into it. We had an issue with the Commerce Clause, and I don't think people are really familiar with that. Yeah. But it's hard for us to say, no, you can't bring your garbage into New Hampshire unless it goes to a municipal facility, which you don't want that either. Yep. Because the downside from what we gather with the municipal facility is they will take on the risk that if something goes awry, the taxpayers are going to be on the hook for that, and that's a big deal.
That's correct. I think the Commerce Clause is pretty well known in terms of, you can't just simply stop out-of-state waste from coming in because of the Commerce Clause. So, in our case, in the case of Bethlehem, 75-80% of the waste that is going into the Bethlehem facility is New Hampshire waste, not out-of-state waste. Right. So we do use some materials, probably some dirty dirts, things of that nature, from a cover material standpoint, some of which comes from out of state,
which we need.
It saves us from digging, virgin material to cover the facility. So it's really a win-win. But again, I think the most important thing is that 75 to 80% of the waste that we take in Bethlehem is New Hampshire waste. We have a lot of communities that we serve in New Hampshire, and the majority of the waste is New Hampshire waste.
Yeah, and we don't want things going into the ground that can be recycled as well. And
it's so true. I think that most people don't understand that the largest portion of our business is collection. The second largest portion is our recycling processing. And in the model now today, we can make more money recycling processing material than we can disposing of it, because the regulatory environment, the capital costs around landfill are very, very high. And so, as a as recycling, going back to our roots, we want to find a solution. We want to find a higher and better use for all of the material going into the landfill. If there's a higher and better use, we want to find it ourselves. We want to cannibalize ourselves before somebody else does. So if there is a higher and better use for something, it's going to be found. And so, our challenge to our team is, hey, we've got to really find that higher and better use for that material, and we're doing that, in many states at this point in time. We've got people, from an industrial standpoint, we could put 5 or 10 people into an industrial facility and help them with their sustainability goals, help them, move material from the ultimate disposal stream into the recycling stream by changing the process, by eliminating materials that are in the manufacturing process. So we're doing that in 40 states now, and have a big portion of our business that is really helping to drive sustainability, whether it's, industrial customers, colleges and universities, municipalities, medical centers. I mean, we have teams of experts that go into each of those facilities to help them meet their sustainability goals. That's a bigger part of our business than disposal. But as we talked about earlier, disposal is really important. You have to have that disposal capacity for those natural disasters. You have to have it for that material that our society generates that there's nothing to do with, that we can't find a higher and better use for. It's it's really interesting, because you would think that in some cases you would think that we're more driven from a disposal perspective, but it's just untrue.
Yeah, you brought up the colleges. I know after every term, if you have a child that's gone to college, look at the dumpster.
Yeah,
everything. That's amazing. And one of the colleges that will remain nameless, the locals aren't allowed even to go into the dumpsters. But I mean, the poorest people would love what those kids are throwing away.
Yeah. Well, some universities now, our team is doing move in, move out days where a lot of that material is getting recycled. It's going to Goodwill Industries. It's going to different facilities where they can reutilize that material as well. So there's just a lot of activity there.
Oh my gosh, what a waste
there.
Yeah. We did pass a bill. Actually, it happened to be my bill, and it had to do with advanced recycling. Are you engaged in that at all?
Yeah. Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by advanced recycling, but we're doing things like mattresses. We're doing mattress recycling. We've got a big mattress recycling facility in Connecticut where we take apart mattresses, recycle as much as we can from the mattress. The majority of that material can be recycled. I think last year we did probably about 250,000 mattresses at that facility, and we're looking to build a couple more facilities. We've got some more in planning from a business development standpoint. It's a good business model, and it's very consistent with what we're doing from a materials management standpoint. Really, when you think about our business, we're kind of moving from waste management to materials management, where the biggest part of our efforts from an innovation standpoint is to try to find a higher and better use for the material.
Yeah. The advanced recycling that we were talking about, it had to do with the plastics, the number 3s or 4s, or things that you can't do anything with them, right? And I remember the resistance. And I thought, what do you want? I mean, you want it to go into the ground, or if you recycle it, you might have air pollution. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, we have scrubbers, right, that go into the chimneys that actually filter out even that stuff out. And sometimes it can be a little frustrating when you're thinking outside the box and trying to get people to come along. And there are some people that'll just say no for whatever reason. But we did pass that. I think I had mentioned it before. There's a company in Portsmouth. They actually developed the material for the recycling plants so that they can. It's just the machinery. Yep. And he showed me a bottle cap. He said, "That's money." And I thought, wow. So these people don't want it in the ocean; they want to recycle it. You know, and that's important. Obviously, and having the technology, we need to take advantage of that.
With a very large portion of the plastic stream is recycled. Number twos, the PET, a lot of that material is recycled. Everything that we pick up from a recycling standpoint goes to a manufacturer here in the country. We don't ship our plastics overseas. We utilize manufacturers here in the country. So I think evolution is, the innovation and technology around the business is changing very, very rapidly. We just redid our Boston recycling facility. It handles 220,000 tons a year of recyclables. That facility, we bring about 25,000 tons of recycling from New Hampshire to our Boston facility, because we don't have a facility in New Hampshire currently. So that facility has a pretty broad reach. And we just retrofitted that facility, and it's usually every 8 to 10 years you're retrofitting the facility. The equipment is close to worn out, but what's happened is that technology changes have happened so rapidly that you can separate more materials. So this last upgrade that we did with our Boston facility was a $25 million upgrade. And when we did that, we increased our throughput by 40% and increased the quality by 40%, 38%.
Your
throughput was how much material can we put through the facility on an annualized basis. So it's really, to increase the throughput and increase the quality of the material are really key components. And that's what so now we have, advanced eddy current separation, optical sorting, we're advanced robotics. There's so many different things that are really advancing the process. And I think the other thing is, with regard to plastics, there's a whole effort that we're making with manufacturers on the industrial side, where we'll go in and help them. And if they're using a plastic that is not readily recyclable, try to figure out, well, can they use something, in substitution that would be recycled, right? So that's part of the Resource Solutions business that I say is probably the fastest growing portion of our business today.
Dumb question.
Yeah.
Where do you get your brain trust on all this? Is it who's helping you with all the science, technology?
So we're doing quite a bit of research. We've done work with Dartmouth. We do a lot of work with UVM, a lot of research work with UVM. We just did a microplastics research project with UVM, where they come into our facilities, we give them material, and then they go back and do a white paper. We did a white paper on organics with UVM as well. We've done some work with Dartmouth on organics a number of years ago. So we'll do work there, but innovation and technology. Our head of recycling is looking at innovation and technology around the world all the time. Same thing from an engineering standpoint. Our engineering team, our commodities team, they're all looking at what is being advanced, both from a technology standpoint and from an innovation standpoint in their fields, right? So, we're now a company that operates in 10 states, and we've got 5,000 employees. And, we're blessed. We have a lot of great people that do tremendous work every day. And, we have 300 employees in New Hampshire.
Well, we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
But you said New Hampshire doesn't have its own recycling plant.
No, it doesn't.
It's time we probably should get one.
I think so. I think one of the things that we had proposed was, as part of our permitting, we would build a recycling facility, someplace in New Hampshire. And, I'm not sure we get through that process, then we will be building a facility in New Hampshire.
That'd be great. Yeah, because we should
eliminate the transportation costs, and it also be an opportunity to further advance recycling, do more education with the facility. It could be very, very positive.
So if people want to do their own research instead of, because there's a lot of voices out there, if they want to get the research from the horse's mouth, if you will, where can they find this information on the technology of your innovations?
Well, there's a lot of information about all of the things that we're doing. We have a whole awards program directed towards our customers in terms of the innovation that they're doing internally to further their recycling efforts. So there's an awful lot of material that's on our website about all of the programs that we're doing.
What is the website?
It's just Casella.com.
The Casella.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me about that when I was running for my campaign, and I couldn't remember.
What is it? I don't know.
I had to call my campaign. What's my website number? So anyway, it happens.
Well, I had to think about it.
Yeah, that's all right. I did too. So I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking about it. And I think we have a bright future if we can just get past a lot of the naysayers out there, and instead of just saying no, flat out no, let's come up with another solution to things that we.
There's always opportunity for improvement. There's always, there's a lot of change. It's an exciting time in the industry, quite frankly, because of all of the change, because of the innovation that's happening, and because of the transformation from waste management to materials management. It's really an exciting time.
That's interesting. Waste management to material management. Yeah. And the mattress thing, that's interesting.
It's exciting. Yeah, really exciting. The team is just delighted.
How did that come about, though? I mean, what are we going to do with all these?
We
right?
bought a company in Connecticut about 4 years ago, and they were already doing it, and they'd already led the way, and so we just embraced it, and we can bring that facility to to New Hampshire, to Massachusetts, or get our. If we don't have enough mattresses, we can get those mattresses to Connecticut, and we're doing that now. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
It's interesting, and it just gets more interesting as we talk about it.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching this show. And if you like the show, please hit the like button on YouTube. And if you want to look for more information, please check out the website. We appreciate John Casella coming on and telling his story, and I'm sure there's more in the future that we'll probably talk about. So until next week, thanks for watching Gate City Chronicles.